Welcome back to Mega Man X Command Mission. Last time, we did battle with Incentus, but unfortunately, because of one final trick he had before we killed him, Spider had to sacrifice his life in order to take Incentus out, as well as the door keeping us from leaving. So as a result, yeah, Spider is our lost character. He is more dead than that Killer Mantis is. So yeah, Zero left a bunch of times, but yeah, overall, Spider is the character we lose in this game. I wouldn't say it's the top 10 saddest deaths in video games, but you know, it sucks. I liked Spider well enough. He was good to have around, and he was certainly one of the characters who interacted with X more over time. At least until, you know, our proper hunters came back, it was kind of Spider a lot, but... Yep, he is gone now, which... That is why I kinda mentioned, hey, don't give Spider any build items, especially not build hypers. Also, real quick, definitely deploy to the mines. You probably want an item that comes from there. But yes, I did mention pretty early on, like, hey, don't give Spider any hypers, cause, you know, he doesn't need them that much. I had to play coy a little bit there, but that's the real reason. Though I don't think I necessarily lied exactly. He's not really the best place to put your hypers or really any build stats in general. Even if he was still alive, he'd probably not be your #1 pick for giving items to. Ah, heck, darn. Spider sure was cool, wasn't he? Apparently Massimo and Axel get along really well. So yeah, of course. Well, we do have an upcoming chapter. Nobody's really talking about that one. I did skip the opening scene, and we're not really gonna get any hints as to what that is this time. This is why I don't make friends, because they die. But yeah, nobody's gonna be talking about, whatever we're doing next. We're all gonna be talking about Spider and his sacrifice. Apparently Zero's out here now. Our old crew isn't here, though. Where did the other guys go? Yeah. I mean, X lost a lot of friends, too. Who could forget David from the start of Mega Man X2? Miss that guy every day. So yeah, there we go. Zero's at the end of his little, character growth bit. He didn't trust people because of Shadow, we killed Shadow, and then Spider gave himself up, both to save Zero from Shadow, and then also to let everybody escape, so, yep. Zero's learned his lesson, and now he's going to stay on the team, provided he doesn't get thrown off any more roofs. As long as that doesn't happen, we're good. But yeah, today everybody's gonna be mourning, and I'm sure you've probably looked at the video time and gone, well, that's a long fucking video, huh? Do we start the next chapter? No, we don't. This is intermission day, and we are definitely doing something pretty hefty. So, of course, in general, we've got the usual thing. We gotta explore the town, talk to people, see what they're all talking about. And it's especially important now because, Spider's the topic of the day, and we should be getting some time to discuss our fallen comrade, Spider. But after that, we have a nice grinding spot. That's definitely something you're gonna want to see. And also, I will be doing something that I really don't think they wanted you to do, or at least they didn't want you to do all of it until post-game. In part because there's a fucking lot of it, and it does actually get pretty hard towards the end. And also, there is one enemy towards the end of this thing that is just straight up a spoiler. Just gonna say this ahead of time. I have censored that in this recording, so whether you're watching this version or the non-com version, not that you can hear me in the non-com version, don't worry, it won't say what the spoiler is exactly. Man who appears worried. But yeah, you won't see the actual name of the enemy. Now granted, it's usually pretty tough to actually see the names of the enemies accidentally, typically have to pause.
Oh, jeez. If Spider can't take them on, then who can?
Maybe the rest of our team? I mean, Marino's still here. But yeah, so I've taken out the spoiler, so you don't have to worry about that, but nonetheless, if you're playing on your own, and if you've not played before, absolutely don't be stupid like I am, and don't do the thing in its entirety just yet. Also, yeah, the name of this figure set is Spider's End. Here's the figure set based off the death of a guy. Yeah, so we recently heard that Spider was killed. Here's Zero, the guy he saved. Incentus, the guy who was the reason that Spider died. And here's a fucking Liquid Glob. Why? I don't fucking know. This guy was around. He was in those mines. But, yeah. I also will not be talking over this entire thing, but we'll get to that later. So... yeah, there we go. Sold out. Cool. I guess back to Spider. Yeah, so that's the real reason there wasn't any sort of, ultimate weapon, or at least fancy weapon, in Legrano Ruins for Spider. It's because he fucking dies, so... he does have a lot of weapons, but... yeah, he doesn't really need an ultimate one, or a fancy one in any case. But, the good news is, if you're the type of person who likes to keep your inventory complete, don't you worry, when Spider dies, you do get his stuff. I did have him in the previous fight to see if, I'd lose anything. I gave him a weapon that I had doubles of, just in case. Same with his sub-weapons, and I also had Bluff on him, because, it's for Spider only, so now that he is dead, it's not like anybody else is gonna get any use of it. But, again, if you're one of those people who likes to, complete your inventory, have one of each item, yeah, you don't have to sweat having things on Spider for that last fight. He will give them back even though he explodes. He exploded so hard, all of his stuff just went flying off into our pockets. It was all part of his plan. He's very considerate like that. But yeah, that's a lifestyle that I don't quite understand, wanting to complete an inventory. That just seems kind of tedious, but whatever. People will do what they do, so... yeah, if you're one of each type of person, you don't have to go to the extra effort of unequipping Spider. And also, if you did have anything good on him, and you weren't expecting him to die, yeah, you didn't have to remove his stuff. You get to keep all your good weapons. Again, I didn't do that, I kinda just had shit on him. I gave him ice missiles. 'Cause I had so many of them. But yeah, that's also probably why on the menus, it does look okay with 7 characters to choose from, but it does look way more natural to have 6 characters. Yeah, they kind of anticipated that, so this is what the menu is kind of supposed to look like. 6 characters. I'd also like to mention that, Spider is the only character, to my knowledge, that was never in Rockman X Dive. That does actually do a pretty good job of including a lot of command mission characters, but yeah, I don't think Spider's in there. I mean, obviously X-Zero and Axel are in there, that's inevitable, but... Marino's in there, Cinnamon's in there, and even Massimo's in there. Like, out of all the characters that I figured wouldn't be in there, I would have guessed Massimo, but yeah, he does actually, get in. He does have arts, from Dive. And you know, that's kinda nice. I don't like that game whatsoever, I've absolutely mentioned that before in these. I don't like playing it, but like there's a actually decent number of decisions that went into everything around it, so yeah, it's really too bad that some of their ideas went to a gacha in general, but also just a completely unfun gacha. Like, look, again, bad enough the gambling's in there, but it's just so fucking boring, and if I'm bored in the game you've made where I can actually play as Alia, and potentially even cool Iris, you fucked up. Morning, man. This interlude has so many good just character tags for generic NPCs. Like, what are you? Are you anything good? Yes, you are absolutely amazing. Woman who contemplates death. The concept of death does not apply to Reploids. Even if Reploid breaks down or ceases to function, a new Reploid can be built from the same body. Is this not existentially horrifying? Or have we accepted this fact? Does this put us beyond humans since we can never truly die? It's so good. Boy who acts tough. But he only acts tough. Inside, he is wailing for Spider. His old friend. Everybody just liked Spider so much. I don't know, he seemed like kind of flippant, maybe a little bit standoffish if you didn't know him, but everybody around here definitely likes him a lot, and I think this is about where we met him. Yeah, because the other area that looks like this we didn't visit. But yeah, this is where we first met Spider. This is where he first fucking murdered a man. And then tried to fight us. Darn you, you stupid Spider. Remember though, she's yelling, that's what her tag said. So yeah, I think we're about at the end of, areas I can check, so... Now it's time to see if anybody died. Yeah, this team was actually pretty successful. Alright, what about you guys? You are my star players this time. I really need you- God damn it, Matar. Okay, gimme a key. Gimme all a key. Gimme all that key. Yeah, that's what I wanted to find. So everybody else doesn't matter too much. We can go right back to the mines. So, level 3 is where we want to go. If you don't remember where the locked room is, this is it. This is the area. This is the floor you want, and this is the door you want. So, what do we have in here that's so important that we want it immediately? Well, clearly it has to be this figure token. No, it's not. There are certain enemies here, which I had a better opportunity to get to, clearly. Let's see, so what are we showing these guys off? Oh, we have this guy blocking a room. Unfortunately, we're getting fought first. So, we've got silver Matars, we had those before, but these are gold Matars as well. And as you might imagine, they are pretty much the same as silver, but better. Of course, they are tougher, but they do give you more money. Oh, hell yeah, nice one! Ugh, got an ace of diamonds. But Spider can't use it. You can't see it, but I'm doing a very cool pose and holding back tears, because I'm very sad about this. But anyway, yeah, let's just kill this guy. You do want to be careful of the gold Matars. Silver Matars do like running away, and gold Matars like running away even more. But they will shoot you, especially if you haven't attacked them yet. I should get a better weapon for Axel, but he does still have the gun that kills specifically Matars. And you know, I don't actually think I've mentioned just yet what those do exactly. It doesn't do necessarily effective damage, but it does crit more often against the weapon type that the, weapon actually mentions. The gimmick of a lot of Axel's weapons is that they are effective against certain enemy types. So you do want to probably buy a bunch of them and then just kind of switch them out depending on what's in an area. Or you could just choose one and kind of stick with it. I don't know, I'm not your mom. Oh, and also, how could I possibly forget? You've probably noticed by now that we have a new battle theme. So yes, now that we're in the back half of the game, new song, Maverick Hunter 2, or Irregular Hunter 2, if you're, using the Japanese version. So, I personally like this song a bit more than Maverick Hunter 1. Don't exactly have the best gauge of, you know, what the public thinks about this song. Though, not a lot of people commented on, you know, the video of it on YouTube, and a lot of them were just like, this song sucks, and I'll give you this. This song is a much shorter loop than the first song we had for the battle theme, but I kinda like this one a bit more. The first battle theme was just sort of all over the place. It's definitely a little calmer and, you know, definitely had a longer loop, but I don't know, I like kinda how frantic this one, and even if it is a little repetitive, I just find it catchier and more interesting. Yeah, the first one had kind of a cool intro, but then it just sort of kinda kept going. I didn't really know what the instrumental's going for, but yeah, I've always dug this one more, and again, I don't know if that's the prevailing opinion.
Hardly a fight.
I have seen one source of opinions on this song, but it was negative, so, you know, that single point was not in the song's favor. So yeah, we don't have the thing that makes this guy move, so we don't get a new person for Deployment Center, and also we can't access that room yet. We'll get that eventually, but we've got to see these absolute miserable failures. And we gotta get the rest of this stuff. Oh, good job, Killer Mantis, you got 1 level. So yeah, I'm not gonna find anything particularly good this time. In case you were wondering. This is not a case where I get anything past that one key. No, the key is the main thing. Everything else I just wanna, you know, show for the sake of showing. You know, you should know what I get, but... Oh, actually, no, never mind. Reverse Thunder is actually incredible. That takes electric damage and says, you know what, actually that heals you. I forgot this is where I obtained that one. I do wind up getting a lot of cool new items in this one, but that's because of the other thing I'm doing. I do want the Soul Saber first and foremost, though. Kitty Gloves can come later. Those are pretty much Cinnamon's best weapons, just because you get ridiculous status effects on it, but Soul Saber is going to be very useful. This one encourages you to eat as much weapon energy as possible at a time with 0, which I think that's going to be handy going forward. I want more attack power for having less stuff on me. So, the other Matars were good for money grinding. However, we've got Big Matar. Normally this guy just tanks everything and runs away eventually, but if you steal his sub-tank energy, he gets real mad. So yeah, he'll appear in this room. I just kind of wanted to wander in a circle in this tiny little closet here. And yeah, this is where you find this guy, and he will fucking kill you. Thankfully, I did have Axel on the defensive. He's got Hell Gravity, which was attempting to cut our HP. Yeah, so this guy's pretty tough. Do be wary of him. If you're trying to money grind off the other Matars, don't enter this closet, and definitely don't steal this guy's tank energy, unless you're ready for a fight. And god damn it, I missed Marino's new thing, but hey, it's not like we've seen her old stuff either. Also, yeah, he's got Terrifier, which is just one of the best single fire spells in the game. Yeah, this guy will kind of fuck you up if you're not ready for him. Also, now that we're here, I did say you probably shouldn't upgrade Spider's version of this hyper mode, and that is true since he dies. However, Axel's is a little better because he doesn't die. Now, it really all depends on what character you think you're gonna get the most use out of, and their hyper mode. And also, you know, maybe, who doesn't have much time to spend in the first place. Like, X-Fire starts pretty good in terms of the time you get for it. Axel has as much time as Spider did, which isn't very good, but if you don't think you're going to do shit like this, then you shouldn't bother. But yeah, all that is to say, it's not a completely useless hyper mode, now that we have a character who will stay with us. That's not gonna be good.
Oh, that really wasn't good.
But yeah, really there aren't a lot of build hypers in the game, so absolutely don't use them until you know your characters in and out and know who you want to use in the long run. That's pretty much it. It just goes to your favorite, I guess. Honestly, that's kind of the build items in general. Like, yeah, just kind of buff who you think needs it the most and who you want to use all the time. I don't know if I necessarily want to give that to Marino, though. Like, she's good. I just want to be wary of the super bosses, you know? Marino's not always the best option for those. So, as much as I like her, and as much as I like Quicksilver, it's maybe not my best choice. If it weren't for them, I would just be giving everything to Marino. She can take center. She can just be, my point character for the rest of the game. Don't care, she's cool. I can't even get much use out of her, action trigger. I'm so bad at it, but the rest of her is fine and cool and good. Axel, on the other hand, oh no, his action trigger whips ass, and the fact that his is based on, or like, weapon energy gives him time rather than damage means that as soon as he's at 50%, you can just go. Because unlike Cinnamon, you really don't need the extra time to make use of him. Even if you don't know the combination super well, it's so easy to do anything with Axel. As long as you're looking at the screen, you're good. Also, please, die. Thank you, God. Please, my Marino, she's very sick. You kind of hit her with a big fire. So I did actually fight the giant Matar twice, and the reason being is I didn't get the Jet Guillotine the first time. The Jet Guillotine is a real cool weapon for Massimo. This one is an attack all enemies weapon. So extremely good for groups, cause Massimo's pretty powerful, and also, sometimes you just want to be able to slice an entire group apart. Anyway, welcome back to the Eternal Forest. Remember this place, and how we just had to go through some paths with enemies to fight? So, what if I were to tell you it was a lot more extensive than that chapter led on? And that, in fact, I'm now going to proceed to go through the entire fucking Eternal Forest. Yeah, so, like I said earlier, I'm not talking over this whole thing. This is most of the rest of the video. Like, here's the timestamp for when I return, but yeah, I'm mostly just gonna leave you to it, because this just kind of keeps going on and on and on and on. Just as a quick note, the lower paths, or the blue paths, are the easier enemies. And of course, the more of the red path groups you fight, the harder they get. And you're basically just building all the way up to going through all of the red paths, and yeah, that's it. It is worth noting, of course, yeah, you absolutely got cut off in Chapter 4. They did not let you explore the full extent of that particular area. Yeah, they cut you off, and I will make note of that as well. But really it is better to do that path when you first arrive at the Eternal Forest, because the reward is a weapon for Spider. So yeah, like I said, They really want you to do this post-game, but if you do a post-game, that particular reward isn't going to be useful for anything but maybe some money. But yeah, that's more or less all I have to say, so I will join you at that timestamp that's going to fade away in a few seconds. See you later. Okay, I am back. Right, so... gonna heal up because I'll need it. Oh, and before I forget, while I'm setting stuff up for this next and final fight of the Eternal Forest, I would like to mention there is a really good map made by, I think that's pronounced Junsu? Junku? Xuncu is the name. This is a publicly available thing. I didn't see anything saying no, you can't use it whatsoever. And it is used on the wiki as well, so I'd imagine they're probably lenient on people using it, but I didn't include it in this video, just in case, but you can find it easily enough, and for some reason it originated on foraffinity.net, don't know why they put that there, but whatever, gotta go somewhere. So anyway, so here are the Belladonna sisters. So technically speaking, these guys are enemies. If you are waiting until post-game to fight these guys, they're not as bad. I think I'm fighting them as earliest as I possibly could in order to survive. So, here's the thing. They heal every turn. They heal to full every turn. And not only that, when you attack them, their stats increase. So you can probably see where that's going, right? If you come in here and just kind of start attacking them willy-nilly, you will die. And I'm not doing great as it is, they're kind of kicking my ass already. But if I start attacking them out of the gate, yeah, they'll just kill me. They will just get tougher and then heal and kill me. So the strategy here is relatively obvious. This is one where I'm going to want to defend until I've got a full weapon energy meter, go into hyper mode, and then just wail on them until they hopefully die. And considering I'm fighting them now, you know that they will. If I could not take them on, I would have just cut that off abruptly there, and said we're doing this later. I did everything else in Eternal Forest except this last part. But yeah, you can do this, I think, as early as just after Chapter 4. I think you can just finish Go Deal Laboratory and come right back, and then die immediately to some of the later stuff in this dungeon. I probably also could have made use of some of the items you get from the Eternal Forest, but I didn't really want to dedicate that much time to figuring out exactly what I could do with them. I basically bolstered my defenses where they needed to go, equipped everything I needed, definitely couldn't use the jet guillotine for this. And yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna have to wail on them. So of course, if you can manage to kill one of them, the battle does get easier from there. Now granted, 2 of them wailing on you, still pretty bad, but a lot more manageable if you can manage 3 in the first place. And yeah, like the game said, they grew a little. They don't tell you exactly what that means, but it means they will punch your face in if you give them the opportunity. Thankfully, the other good thing about using hyper mode is, it will make us a bit more resistant to these guys once they start attacking again. Cause yeah, I'm not gonna be defending after all of this, of course.
Transform!
So nobody can hurt Axel, that's cool and good. But Axel can hurt them. With, of course, Wild Django. Yeah, Axel's got a lot of, like, group attacks, but Wild Django is just a single attack, and boy oh boy, is it remaining relevant even now. It's not terrible just because he was, you know, the first true boss of the game. Sorry, Hippopressor, but you don't count. You were just in the prologue. But yeah, I'm still getting some pretty good use out of Wild Django. Incentus is very good though, don't get me wrong. Maybe don't do that. So thankfully there is a loophole to the, growth counter, in that it is a counter to what you do. Therefore, if you're countering their attacks, they're not going to raise their stats because of that, which is good, because that really could have screwed me over. But that being said, counter is effectively useless as well, because they're just gonna heal it off. I cannot imagine the timing you would need to get, you know, lucky enough to counter and then be able to immediately start attacking them. As for other pro tips for this one, make sure you don't use hyper against anything else, ever. Just don't use your hypers. It's going to get you killed. As it stands, Axel is a little risky to use because his timer is so low. I guess I could have given him a build, but I don't know if that's what I want to do just yet. But yeah, everybody else has more than enough if they're only going to attack one round at a time. But I might not have had enough if I'd been tempted to use it against the other enemies. Which there are pretty tough enemies in there. Unfortunately, I did have to double back, like, towards the end, to, you know, retreat, go back to base, heal on that bed. Which means I did have to trudge through the back half of the dungeon, heal, then trudge through the first half of it, and god. I like this game, but backtracking kinda sucks. Places feel a lot more empty when you're not traveling cutscene to cutscene, and you're just fighting incredibly weak enemies. That's definitely a bit of an annoyance, but I just could not keep up with the sub-tanks enough, unfortunately, so... While there is a lot of energy to steal from enemies, and you do get a refresher at the end of every path, it simply wasn't enough, and I guess I could have retread old paths, but... at that point it probably is still faster to go back to base, even if it is tedious. Of course, you do have to remember as well, if you want to retry the maze, you go through the left door. If you want to leave the maze, you go through the door at the back. Also, if you're wondering, you know, do I have to go through all of these? No, you can just look through that whole montage, figure out what items you might have wanted from there, and then just do those paths, and not bother with the rest. Like, if you're just playing this on your own, feel free to not do any of that shit. You definitely get some worthwhile stuff. I won't say this was a complete waste of my time. And in terms of rewards, I guess it is better that I didn't wait until, you know, after I completed the game for this. But, again, some of the stuff does not get easy. The belladonnas are kinda killer. I will also say, something I really haven't made note of because it's never been relevant, but Command Mission is one of the few RPGs I can think of where, like, they don't want you defending. Like, a lot of RPGs, especially nowadays, kind of want to give you more incentive for kind of turtling a little bit, you know? Holding back, not necessarily just attacking all the time, choosing when to, you know, defend, when to attack. And, you know, usually there's some sort of, like, points value you can get, or resource or whatever have you. But no, Command Mission actively gives you less weapon energy if you defend. You generate more weapon energy by just firing with your regular weapon and not doing anything else. And I kinda get that. Like, they're trying to make it more difficult to do what I'm doing right now. They want you to be more aggressive overall. But... I don't know. I get it, and I think in most cases it does work pretty well. And again, they want to prevent specifically what I'm doing from being so easy, but I think even if the number of turns I had to take to make this succeed was halved, it would still be a potentially difficult fight. Like, this is still kinda tooth and nail. Also, what do you mean you got 2 turns in a fucking row? How dare you? So yeah, thankfully that's not like a constant thing. The last one didn't get incredibly powerful because the other 2 died. If that were the case, I don't think I could have finished here. As it stands though, still kind of drawing close to death. I don't have a lot of sub-tank use left over. That's fine. I'll just heal everybody now. Right, so this is where things could have potentially gotten kinda lethal. Since Axel turned back and didn't have any hyper mode turns left, I think that was me deliberating like, oh god, what do I do now? Do I switch to Zero? But no. The reason I went with this particular team is they are the most reliable with their action triggers for me. Marino, of course, was right out. I would not have been able to do anything with Marino in this one. Zero, similarly, I could not have done anything with. I just think I would have gotten my ass kicked. Cinnamon can survive the magic attacks, so she'd be pretty good with the blizzards. Everything else would have ruined her entire day, so she wasn't a great pick either. So this is pretty much my powerhouse team. Oh god damn it, of course you go after the person not defending. Yeah, this is my powerhouse team with either really easy action triggers or hyper mode specific action triggers. Still an action trigger, it's just, you know, X-Buster would be terrible for this. You absolutely want X-Fire to be active. For everybody else, it's for the stats. For X, it's because I simply would not be able to work with X-Buster. Yeah, like, let's attack the entire party that's going to immediately heal and get better at hitting me. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Just kidding, it's a terrible idea. Alright, I guess the only other thing I have to mention while we're just waiting for the last little bits of weapon energy is... fun fact, you can actually see Belladonnas in, like, tutorial screenshots. If you've been looking through those, there is actually a picture of the party fighting a Belladonna. In a circumstance where you absolutely wouldn't. So, yo. It's one of those, this was absolutely a screenshot taken in development when enemies were just in different places. Like, this is just somebody using debug mode or whatever. But yeah, that's kinda interesting. You can potentially see them early and go, what the hell's that thing? And if you get to the end of Eternal Forest, it is the thing that's going to knock you into the dirt. There is one other instance of these Belladonnas in the game. But if you found them there, they will also kick you into the dirt in that case. There is no instance of the Belladonna that is not tied to something that will absolutely kill you if you're not careful. Alright, so here we go. We've got just a little time left. Getting caught in the X-Fire. And... I thought her HP meter looked a little high and I was worried I wouldn't pull this off. Because if this right here didn't work, then that was it. I was done. Thankfully, though... barely made it. Ah, I love Final Strike so much. Right, so that's the Belladonna trio. Don't fight this one early. Again, I'm fairly certain this is the exact point at which I could maybe fight them any earlier, and yeah, no, I wouldn't die. We get 3 Turbo Clocks and 3 Resists for that, and that's incredibly good. And I finally got Massimo's action trigger. His is based on, like, doing a certain amount of damage at once, so the later you on in the game you get, the better of a chance you have of actually pulling that off and getting a new action trigger for him. Cinnamon's, I think, is just killing enemies or something, because I've had her out of the party and not level up, and she gets her action trigger. I'm pretty sure it leveled up somewhere in that entire maze, but I forget where, and I'm not going to bother checking. It's kind of a long video. You might have noticed. I edit that thing once, I don't want to do it again. Stamina missiles, build hyper, and tank parts. Maybe not the most interesting reward for doing that, but it's something. So anyway, I do want to go all the way to the end of Gojil's laboratory, because at one point we got something called a bone key. And you might think that's used for a door, but no, it's not used for a door. Also, yeah, I kept getting into fights, and believe me, they have no chance against me, but it's still annoying. I was kinda done at this point. I did take breaks, but it still sucked to just have 2 or 3 sessions of just doing that in a row. It's really tedious. So anyway, yeah, this is what the bone key's for. here's a new guy for Deployment Center. So yeah, that covers it. That's Eternal Forest, the one bit of an older RPG where they said, hey, what if we just made something that really wasn't fun, and just took a while to get through? And then they did, and I played it. You might not have to, though. In fact, you probably shouldn't. I did this so you didn't have to. Next time, on Mega Man X Command Mission, we start the next chapter. Oh, thank God, something that isn't the Eternal Goddamn Forest. Did you see my playtime? It was kind of severe. Yeah, look at that. Ridiculous. See you next time.